The education in our country is the right to every person as enshrined in the Constitution. Every child has the right to education. But what happens when that right has been taken away from you due to issues to deal with insecurity or drought? Today, I'm joined in studio with one Jonathan Wesaya, who's going to be talking to me with regards to these issues. Wesaya is an educationist. Karibu sana, Mr. Wesaya.
Thank you, Dennis, for having me.
Now, please bring us up to date with regards to this right to education, with reference to the Laikipia skirmishes that saw schools closed down, children forced to run away with their parents. What then happens when this right to education has been denied to them because of insecurity?
But thank you, Dennis. And this is an emotive issue. And when we are debating it, we need to be sober and very deliberate on what we say, and especially what we don't say, because that is what carries meaning. The President of Kenya, when being sworn into office, swears to protect the Constitution. One of the cardinal elements of the Constitution is the Bill of Rights, which then gives the children of Kenya at least free and compulsory basic education. The President goes ahead to delegate that function to the Cabinet Secretary of Education, who then must be the embodiment of how that right is realized across the country. But we have seen that since independence, there is no deliberate effort to support people who find themselves in disadvantaged situations, either out of the context where they are born, of what is happening from where they are, out of either politics, policy, or natural disasters. We have not seen the ministry use the same energy it uses on other things to support the children of the needy when they are out of school. What is happening in Laikipia is unfortunate. We should not be having skirmishes pitting families against family, communities against family, over 50 years after independence, and people are fighting over pasture. And these pastoralists who want pasture are not new. The conservation group that is in Laikipia is also not new. What is so difficult in government finding an amicable solution to all these people coexisting? But more, as we talk about Laikipia, Laikipia is only a symptom. The drought is happening elsewhere. West Pokot is facing drought. East Pokot, parts of Marakwet, Wajir, Garissa, and Mandera. There are children who are now moving with their families from where they would ordinarily have settled to attend school, to follow their livestock, to look for water. So we need to see the energy with which the Cabinet Secretary moves with every day being directed to the same issue. Why is the Cabinet Secretary buying time on how to deal with this matter when during examinations he is able to say, we are one government, we work as one unit, we are going to deliver this exam? Where is the multi-sectoral agency that he has been using in this matter to protect these children so that their right for education is not taken away?
I think on that point where you're talking in terms of education is where my next question comes in, because we find at the end of the day, children have been denied that opportunity. They lack education time. But then at the end of the year, whether they're sitting their KCPE or KCSE, they still sit the same exam with the rest of the students. So then under the law, what are the safety nets that are there, if any? And if not, then how do we proceed moving forward?
The law is very clear. The Constitution provides for the right to free and compulsory basic education. The Education Act confirms that. So now what we need from the leadership of the ministry are policy and practice guidelines on what should happen to children caught between crossfire, between warfare, between skirmishes. Where do they find safe space for their own safety, but also for them to get support so that the loss of learning is reduced. Because what experts and researchers in education have shown consistently, that when children are away from their peers, they are away from the classroom, they are away from the school setting, there is loss of learning that happens, and that is natural. But to prevent this, children need to be guided and supported in situations of distress. And this is psychological. They need good nutrition, and they need good health for them to be able to resume their education.
I think on that point, before you proceed, sorry to cut you short, but now the education CS and even the security CS, Fred Matiang'i, categorically said that schools are going to reopen on Monday. How do we then make sure that these children who are going back to school, their psychological status is good enough for them to continue with education? Because they have experienced things that you don't want a child to experience, not even a child, any other Kenyan. So how then do we make sure that while they're going to school, going back to school rather, their mental state is good for them?
And this is a problem we've had in education in Kenya since independence. We have leadership at the top of the ministry that has a thread, has a story, but it is holding one end and nobody knows what the other end looks like, and nobody knows where it is going. And when you offer divergent view, you are labeled to be a critic of the system and you are anti-progress. But we have not seen any progress. So what does this progress look like? What experts are saying and what child rights defenders are saying is that the cabinet secretary should not just come to press and say schools will open on Monday. He needs to give a roadmap. He needs to say this is the amount of money we have allocated to implement this strategy. These are the partners who are on board. This is what we are going to do to safeguard the children. This is what we are going to do to ensure that we do not encounter laws of learning. This is what we are going to do to ensure the health of the children is protected. But the cabinet secretary cannot always be coming to press and saying that this will happen, that will happen. It is the same approach he took with CBC, and he kept saying the train has left the station. Now see where we are.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jonathan Wesaya, even as we continue with this conversation with regards to right to education and the mental status of children across the country. Now to Meru, and the NC party leader Musalia Mudavadi is expected in Meru County. It needs heightened political activities to woo the region by